All right, all right, all right. Welcome to Goof On, everybody. I'm Rich Giordano, and it is March 10th, 2021. It is Wednesday, and we are right over the hump heading into the rest of the week. I'm glad you could join us here tonight, and we've got a really good one for you. Me. But nonetheless, we are the big family. Goof On keeps growing over and over every day, every night. I appreciate the support, and I want to start that off with Lisa Marie, not Presley, with a $20 super chat. I appreciate that, and I can't load it up on the screen because too many chats went by, but Bjorn, I think, was giving the same message as you with a $5 super chat. That's a happy birthday from Belgium. Thank you, Bjorn. Thank you very much, Lisa Marie, not Presley. You guys are super generous, so I appreciate that. And the secret's out of the bag. I was telling Coral and a couple other people, let's not talk about it. And everybody, since exactly midnight, Lisa, I think, was the first one. And then Ms. DJ was right after that. And it's been going since then. It's like I lost count. It's just amazing how much you guys give back to me. I wish I could do more. But as you know, I'm pretty much stretched out with the big move coming up as well. So a lot of things going on with Goof On, as you know, Third Phase of Moon and the sister channel, Third Phase UFO Report, putting out stuff continuously and going through the archives, including the new stuff that comes out just about every day. Like to give you those updates and those reports. With that being said, I will not be doing roll call. I just want to let everybody know that. You know, we don't do that when we have a guest. And tonight's guest will be Jeremy, I believe it's Rice, R-Y-S. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not, am I? No. Reese? Rice? I see. All right. He'll be coming on. He's alien scientist on Twitter. He's been there since the beginning almost of Twitter. So he's been around a while and interacts in the community. I see him tweeting with just about everybody as long as he doesn't get blocked. We'll talk about the Greenwald, John Greenwald's block. I think it was today or yesterday, but it's interesting. And this Bergalia file thing is just getting, as he said, muddied. It has just been drugged through the worst of the worst swamps you can imagine. I don't even know what's true anymore. And the last thing I remember about that, and we'll go over this with Jeremy, was those documents aren't exactly what we believe they are. Those FOIA documents, you know, it took 3 years for Anthony Bergalia to get. And we're going to go over all that stuff. We'll talk about it with Jeremy. But I want to thank everybody again. I appreciate the love, the support, and we'll just keep going until we can't anymore. So I'm going to bring Jeremy on here, and let's welcome Jeremy, a.k.a. Alien Scientist. How do you say your last name, by the way?
Riss, man.
Riss.
Thank you.
I would have never guessed that. And I take pride in names. I feel bad. But thank you for correcting me on that. I appreciate it. So you're on Twitter. Is that your only focal point of contact with everybody on social media?
I have a Alien Scientist Facebook page, and we have another page that I made a couple years back called Hover Brothers on Facebook. But mostly it's just through my website, alienscientist.com, and mostly through YouTube has been my only platform, really. I've been on YouTube since 2008, and I did a lot of videos on like deep state research and other weird obscure topics, as well as physics and science topics, and anything I could use science for debunking, or any argument or argumentation in conspiracy land that involved, science or any kind of scientific argumentation. I like to take part in that, because it's hard to say when science is really settled, and a lot of propagandists use the term settled science to dissuade further discussion. And I think science is really, it's one of those things that I've stuck to with my channel, because it's really never ending. It just it's education isn't something you can finish, with when it comes to science, and we're always learning more. And the more we learn, the more we realize how small we are in this great big universe of possibilities and stuff that's out there. So,
It's with anything, right? I mean, it never ends. I've been in this field 17 years. I just learned something yesterday. It's weird. You think you know it all, but I can't imagine a scientist ever saying that they know everything in with their field. It's impossible, I think. So, I wouldn't be an animal lover if I didn't bring it up, but I see you have a nice cat there with you, black cat.
yeah, he likes to join me sometimes for the
Looks,
streams.
I had a black cat named Bosco. Yeah, looked exactly like your cat there. It's just brought back he's looking right at the screen, right at the camera. He's beautiful.
This is Leo.
Leo, great
Yeah,
name, man. Does he have a last name too? Reese?
I
Is it
guess I
Reese?
don't know. He's just Leo. I don't know. Leo
Just,
Kittens. Yeah. But
so what part? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just go ahead. You
yeah,
were gonna
yeah.
say.
No, go. Let's let you lead this. This is your show, man. I'm gonna let
No,
you
it's
lead the
yours. Yeah,
questions. All
no,
right.
no. I actually
There's a
I'd
lot
rather
we
you
got a lot we got to talk about, and a lot I want to bring up and discuss. So I don't know where exactly we should start. Other than
start.
like, I'll kind of we start with the Twitter drama and then go from there. I guess
You
we can
could, yeah.
we'll
Well,
just I don't want to make it about that, because you know what, he blocked me, and it's an issue of there's a problem with a lot of people I have, and like in this community, it's that they don't engage in open to dialogue and discussion. They ask, they say they don't like. He's made a couple comments saying that he like Greenwald's made a couple comments saying that there's evidence lacking for certain things like that I've researched. For example, I don't want to get into specifics, but I sent him a bunch of information. I have a lot of information. I've done a lot of research, so I sent him a lot of information and links and sources for something, something conspiracy related that he said, "Oh, I have no documents on this," to some group of people, and it had like 600 likes or something on Twitter. And I'm like, this is like a gatekeeping statement, because now all these 300 people aren't going to research this particular topic any further, because John Greenwald just went and told them all that, oh, I don't have any documentation on that. And then he's got this whole beef going on with Anthony Bragalia, and I was
Oh,
trying to
I got to
understand.
interrupt you. I'm sorry. People are saying they can't hear you that well. Like your volume's really
Hello.
low. To me, oh, that's much
How
better.
about
Yeah.
that? How about that if I go right in
Well, that's a little too much, but
too much? All right, let me turn it down right to there.
no, a little more higher up.
Right there. Right there.
That sounds good to me. I mean, it
All right.
sounded good. I have that. Can anybody?
I'm sorry. I just bought a new microphone too, so I'm might not have the level right. I'm sorry for that. I just want
It's
to.
see
That's
to me
better.
you sound. It was fine before. Other people are saying. See, and I
You
thought
know
you
what? I get
sounded
a lot. I
fine.
get a lot of trolls that follow me around, and they'll always like say that there's audio problems, because then you start messing with it, and if it's perfect, then you mess it up. So like, there are trolls that do that to me a lot in my streams. So I wouldn't be
Yeah. Well,
surprised.
yeah. These were. Yeah. They were our group here. So all right. Well, everybody's saying it's fine. So I'm not going to worry about it. I get that too. Yeah. All right. So you were saying.
So in any case, I just feel like there's a lot of people that block people, and they don't open up dialogue, and you reach out to these people, and then they take this moral higher ground that like, oh well, I'm more popular, I have more viewers than you, therefore I don't need to talk to you, and your opinion doesn't matter. And it's one thing if you're not covering that person and not talking about them, but if I cover you, or if I start talking about Rich and Goof on my show, right? And I'm saying all these things about you, and then you have you reach out and you have an opportunity to like contact me and talk about it directly. Like I wouldn't say a bunch of stuff I'd rather go out and reach out to these people directly if you can. And you know what I mean? I see a lot of this engagement where it's like these people take this moral higher ground and then say all these things about other people in the community. Like Jeremy Corbell's another one I've had Twitter drama with like this before. And I respect everybody up to a point when they take this higher ground and then start, calling my messages and the information I'm trying to provide them with spam. Like I'm interrupting his normal flow of information with this, and there's a lot of things that I question about about this whole situation. Like there's a couple people that have said, well, like made allegations that like, well, hey, Greenwald's sources are the FOIA people at the Pentagon, the people that provide him with his information and his FOIA. So obviously there might be a conflict of interest there that people have pointed out, and that he's got to protect his sources. And if this guy Anthony Bergali is coming out and saying that Susan Goff of the Pentagon said X, Y, and Z, then John Greenwald's obviously, there's some confusion there with conflicts of interest, obviously, because it's like, you're obviously going to protect these, your sources at the Pentagon and not like step on anyone's toes. And you've proven that with other issues related to sensitive documentation and this is the other thing. I think that a lot of this beef with Bergali really stems from John Greenwald's being upset that he realizes that all the UFO material that he's saying that he's like he pretends to be like this kingpin on YouTube and on he's got this he pretends to take this like higher ground, like he's the expert, the go-to number one guy in all of UFOs. Like, no, this is a community. It's no one's can take that position in this community. It's an open engagement, and if you're gonna sit there and talk about Anthony, at least invite him on your show and confront him directly instead of leveling all these attacks on him. Which now I can't even post that FOIA on Twitter now without or talk about the metallic glass or any of the metal studies or the technology that's inside there, and without people saying, "Oh, John Greenwald debunked that."
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
And it's like I try to talk about this and bring this up, and it frustrates the heck out of me. I woke up early in the morning to take a piss, and I go on Twitter. I made that mistake, and instantly I was just like mad again because there's people that aren't getting any of that's 154 page FOIA hidden here, like there's 4 of them, and they're about. There's a lot. It goes a lot deeper than just this Bigelow thing, which I'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
We'll go. Let me see if I can share my screen and we'll talk about some of this.
Oh, let me pull up share for you. You have that option.
I'm gonna do it right here.
All right. Oh, there it is. All right.
And then you have to, I think, show it. Oh no, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a new thing with StreamYard. Yeah.
So, yeah. In any case, my whole beef was that you're talking about this guy, and I really didn't want to have to play middleman, but I just don't like people taking that higher ground and talking about people and then.
But isn't he right, John Greenwald? See,
he's definitely he's right about a lot of things, but the problem is that the people don't read past the headlines was the issue, and so like he makes all these videos where the headlines are that it's debunked, so people don't read past that headline. So it's again we're getting into like.
But the FOIA request didn't say where the materials came from. It didn't say they were alien, right? Isn't that what he was saying? There's no.
So I spoke to Anthony, and what Anthony said, I called Anthony on the phone, and he talked to me, and he said that what he put in the FOIA request for was UFO crash debris. And what he got back was, let me find that UFO explorations. I'll bring it up. So he put the FOIA in for UFO crash debris, and what he had gotten back, and he did an updated story on this with the Pentagon spokesperson, and what they sent him back was something on this whole metals study, and he has the whole email exchange here published so that people can download it and read it on the the updated story on this. But the original FOIA request says nothing about materials for military research or anything like this.
Right.
It was originally just for UFO debris, flotsam ingestion, or crashed material. And so apparently there's some other information here linking these Bigelow studies to crash material, or this is just a mix-up, and as John Greenwald says, a loose response to a FOIA, that it was not, not an exact response, but just a loosely affiliated response,
But
and that
but isn't it because it takes time to get the information, so they give you stuff as they're still researching it? Isn't that why? They give you a little bit just to get you, make you happy, and then they keep searching for more.
I guess, but it's just that Anthony said, Anthony's argument is that he put in the FOIA for UFO debris and got back a FOIA from Bigelow Aerospace Metals Studies on metallic glass and spin glasses and
That's
spintronics and all
interesting
this
right
stuff.
there, isn't it?
So it's interesting right there, in a certain sense, but Greenwald's beef with it is just that the FOIA, FOIA is his business and documents are his business, so
Yeah.
he has to take that stance on it. But the problem is that the people don't read past the headlines, don't read past his titles of his videos and stuff, which is unfortunate. But I don't want to make this about John and me, because we had a little Twitter spat, and it's understandable. I just don't like people on calling out other people and then not giving them an opportunity and then blocking them, when
So
they try to
where
open. We need to be opening dialogue and not like taking this higher ground and giving excuses for why we're not going to talk to certain people.
so you're getting ready to show us where John was wrong
I'm gonna go and
on more of
show.
that?
I'm gonna show you. So John released. So let's go to the Black Vault, right? So
Okay.
he has the two videos that he posted on that, and he tries to he did some good stuff by talking about those videos, by talking about some of the UFO debris analysis and stuff. But he's not a scientist, so he doesn't really hasn't really researched the science of these materials or traced back the history of these materials, like I'm going to show you right now that I have,
Okay.
and get into. Because he just leaves out a lot of pieces, and then did the Pentagon just admit to having UFO debris? And he says, well, no, they didn't admit to having UFO debris. But then he releases this other what? Where's the one where he has another video he released where he says this is what real Pentagon UFO debris looks like, and I have that. So this is the paperwork that he produced that shows that the Pentagon and the military did, in fact, have historically. This is a historical document proving that there have been UFO medals recovered. Here's a picture of this UFO medal. It was recovered in 1952, and this is actual alien metal that was dropped from a UFO
I
during.
remember that one.
It was during an exercise Main Brace. It was Operation Main Brace, it was actually a naval exercise in the North Atlantic for NATO, and it was a combined naval training exercise that they were doing with these naval ships right here in the Baltic Sea, and very similar to the Nimitz encounter, with those naval ships that encountered the Nimitz
Yep.
craft that was caught. So they were doing a naval exercise. This 1952 Operation Main Brace. This UFO was spotted. It dropped some metal material. This metal actually was recovered on the ground. And there's a chain of custody in here of where that metal went to, from how it got from Denmark to Germany to the U.S. Very interesting.
Is this in the FOIA request documents?
This isn't in the new FOIA request. This is much, much older, but John Greenwald brought it up after he said that, the Pentagon hasn't admitted to analyzing UFO debris, and then he said, well, but they have, and showed this document. So
Okay.
it's not that John Greenwald necessarily confused this himself. It's just that people got confused about this and have been confused about this. So I'm trying to
Okay. Yeah, I
I don't
appreciate
think it's
that.
necessarily John's fault on that, but it gets me a little bit upset, like when I see like that the headline. I just didn't think John's approach was right, and that he should have reached out to Anthony in the first place. I tried to
So
set
what
that up, and eventually that they've agreed to actually do a talk. So I hope that they've are sorting this out together.
so
But
what's the difference between what we're seeing here and what Bergalia received? Just new stuff?
So the difference between what we're seeing here is this is an actual piece of UFO metal, and this is
Yeah.
the report of the chain of custody of where that UFO metal was retrieved, and then it kind of shows where it went. There's a lot of this stuff tends, all roads lead to Wright-Patterson with this stuff,
Yeah.
with this UFO metals. There's a place at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base called the Foreign Material Command, and that's what Corso worked for. I'm not sure I believe everything that Corso wrote.
Yeah, me neither.
He got a lot of stuff wrong on his history timelines with the materials, and so. But the history timelines are something that are interesting that I want to sort of talk about. So
Okay,
let's find that. All right, that's important right there.
sure.
Let me find the UFO explorations.com.
What?
Let's find that FOIA that
Uh, yeah, just going to shout out to Moonlick for the $19.69 super chat, and I appreciate that while you were looking that up. Welcome to the freaking age of Aquarius, Bubba, your buddy, your pal, Eartha Kit. Thank you very much. And sorry if I don't shout them all out while we're talking, audience. Just so you know, we don't want to interrupt. It's real interesting. Now are you a FOIA guy too, like John Greenwald, or do you just go after
No, I do.
everything?
What I do is I took this FOIA, right, and I'll show you what I do.
Okay,
So this is the original one. All right, the FOIA request can be seen in full here. Is this the 154 page one? No, this is the short one. Where's here it is. The first batch can be seen here. So this is the 145 pages. So let me share this with the audience on the live chat here.
sure. Oh yeah, I'm gonna
Hopefully,
drop it in the chat. Thank you.
and I'll drop it in your private chat so you can drop this link. This is the link to the FOIA, and it talks about metallic glasses, and this is a thing that's about research that was done by Bigelow Aerospace. So this is more recent studies. These go back to about 2000, actually 1999 is the earliest one. So it goes back about 21 years.
Okay.
And it talks about some stuff in here in the research and shows some graphs. But the research that I do is more the more science stuff. So what I'll do is I'll read through all this technical stuff. And then I'll go to the bibliographies and I'll find all the sources that they use to get all this stuff. So right here, if you scroll down, you'll find this bibliography. And you can go, see this part is interesting. It has large sections that are blacked out, right? And don't show like this complete, right? Because they're actually color graphs that were like photocopied in black and white from the original papers. And you can look up those original papers here in the sources and get them if you do the kind of research that I do. So I'll go through and trace this stuff back and then do research on it and find their sources, because these papers have a lot of earlier sources, so you can trace back all this stuff through the literature to find out where it originated and where it came from. It's kind of interesting. No one had heard about metallic glass until it appeared in a Star Trek episode in Star Trek Voyager 4, I think it was. Star Trek 4.
The voyage home, yeah.
The voyage home, and
the whales.
With the whales and stuff. So they had brought this thing up and they talked about transparent aluminum. That was 1986.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. How do you know this guy didn't invent it? Yeah.
So
that's what he said. Yeah.
Right. How do you know this guy didn't invent it and stuff? So actually, that was something that was known about, and these Hollywood scriptwriters must have been hip to some kind of information to find out about that. But the company that originally did it was this company called Cermic Corporation. I think they're in Burlington, Mass, which is right out here. I didn't even know that. I'm gonna have to go and see if they're local to me. So I'm gonna see if I can't call these
That's
people.
really amazing, though. I mean, that's probably not the actual formula for it, but the fact they even spoke about it in '86, I think, when the movie came out, '84.
Yeah, they
transparent
talk about it.
aluminum.
There's a bunch of videos on it. This video right here is a really good one on it. I'll post that in the live chat.
Oh, I saw that video.
Yeah, I posted these on Twitter today so that people can check them out. And this one talks about the Tesla truck and the glass that broke because they made the Tesla trucks.
Oh, right.
Glass. The Tesla trucks have this special glass. They have this transparent aluminum glass in the Tesla truck, and he shows how it's made. It's actually aluminum, oxygen, and nitrogen. And
I'll drop the link for everybody because you sent it to me.
It talks about the process of it. This is like the raw product, and they bake it in an oven and like and do a pressure treatment for like really high pressure, really high temperature for a certain amount of time, and it comes out like this. And then they post process it with this polishing, and it becomes transparent, and it's way stronger than glass. And then
Wow.
then they're talking about replacing the space shuttle, like the windows on the space station, with this new type of glass, because the windows on the space station get all scratched up from space debris, and they talk about the insides of them.
Aren't they using this glass at hockey rinks now?
I think so. They might
Yeah.
be. It might be. It's getting, as production increases, the cost is going down. Because it's everything when it's brand new like this. When technology, it's going to be super expensive at
Yeah.
first. But once the industry kind of like steps up to fill the hole, it'll take
Is
over. So the link I just posted was the U.S. Naval Research Laboratories video on transparent armor, and this is surprising. This stuff's only got 14 like thousand
wow.
views, and it's been up for like 2 years and stuff. It's out there, but people just don't know about it. They're not introduced to this kind of
Whoops.
talk. What's really cool, this video, have you seen the metallic glass video by this guy Thoistoy? This one right here.
I don't
Thoi-
think I've seen that yet. I'm posting it in the chat for you guys. Yeah, I don't think I've seen this one. Wow.
this one's super cool. I'm gonna post this one. This reminded me when I saw this, and everyone in the comments is saying it too. It's the craziest thing. This video's got like a million, like 1 million, 1.3 million views right now.
Yeah.
And when it was first posted, like in August 2020, just a couple months ago, everyone in the comments was saying this sounds like the Roswell. Like, look at this third comment. The first thought I had was Roswell. Anyone else? You
So,
know?
can you play a little bit of that, or is it probably
Yeah.
copywritten? Yeah, we can play a few seconds.
I've played it. I actually took this video and I posted it in a conjunction with some videos of Jesse Marcel describing that Roswell memory metal. And I'll just show this quick clip. This guy puts a
Yeah.
lot of pressure on it and tries to bend.
Oh, this is great.
So that's regular sheet metal. And then the metallic glass it doesn't bend the same way, so it's like a bouncier material.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's like Roswell.
It's similar to Roswell. It's in
Similar.
fact the
Yeah.
closest material I've seen that is anything close to what those witnesses described. And there's a lot of people that discredit those witnesses and say they were just making it all up afterwards to sell books and stuff.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of freaky when you see science start producing stuff like this. Look at the bounce that this
Yeah. What is
metal
this about?
has.
What are they showing us here? I see it
So,
bouncing, but why is this important?
so one of them's got like a this is a ball bearing test, and it's a ball bearing just bouncing in a glass tube off of the metal. And this metal's the metallic glass. This metal is just regular sheet metal, and it shows the way that the forces are transmuted in that metal. And they make golf clubs out of it. It's the only thing that they could really find an application for. But then this guy did a
For now.
study, and
Yeah.
he said they're not really worth the money for what they do and stuff. But
Jeez. They'll
it's
find
weird.
something.
They're gonna find something, and I guarantee. So the metallic glass stuff goes back. Really to it doesn't I haven't found it going back like to Roswell or anything in the 50s or 40s. We have that metal that was dropped and stuff, but this isn't really that we were talked about earlier. This one with the metal that got dropped in that old 52 document
Yep.
from the Denmark case. It just shows that it went through this chain of command, and then it ended up in this. It ended up in Wright-Patterson or something like everything else does, and then it doesn't really talk about what had happened to it from there. And this is interesting because a lot of Brigalia's research, and I just found Brigalia about a year ago and started digging into some of this stuff. And he's got some really interesting articles on here about Battelle. I don't know if you've ever heard of Battelle.
Patel?
No,
No.
Battele.
No, I haven't actually.
Well, this is one reason I think that Greenwald's doesn't like Brigalia is that basically Brigalia, people start researching into this Brigalia stuff that I found just a year ago. This has been out since 2008. He started a lot of these memory metal things were published in 2012. Brigalia is not exactly I don't think on point with the science either. He's not like a scientist, and so it's not the best. It's not the best. You always take like the gems out of certain people's research and try to go with whatever you can get there. But he's done some great research on linking up Battelle NASA studies on memory metal and producing metals in space. They actually they build and forge a lot of these metals in space because the zero gravity environment causes a different type of crystallization process in
Whoa.
the metals. And this is just weird stuff. They talk about these memory metals that you heat them up and they can warp shape, and you can bend them all out of shape, and then they bounce back into shape, and they
Like the
talk about
Terminator type of liquid metal thing.
this stuff on like liquid metals that can phase change based on
Jeez.
but what's interesting, I want to read where's the there's a very interesting part if you read up on metallic glass. So spin glass. So spin glass is one of the things that's mentioned in this FOIA, right? And just want to go to this part about spin glass. Maybe if I can blow this up. Whoop, not that much. Right here. So this shows quartz crystalline silicon dioxide, which is quartz glass, right? Just regular quartz. It's crystallized
Okay.
silicon. And this is glass. It shows it in a disordered state. And it says that the magnetic disorder of spin glass compared to a ferromagnet is analogous to the positional disorder of glass compared to quartz. So there's a positional disorder. It's these things don't crystallize. So that when things crystallize, they become ordered. When they don't crystallize, they have this disorder in them. And somehow over the whole structure, like light goes through. But what's interesting is that some of these types of glasses, if you were to the aliens would obviously have technology where they could like link these up in all kinds of specific ways and make whole networks. There's something. Where's the
But
thing about the research into neural networks? Hold
what's
on.
the difference between that one and the quartz then? I know it's not, geometrically perfect, but why is that different in a way that it would work better or?
It has more elastic properties. It can bend more. It's more
Okay.
flexible. It doesn't have. It has there are ways to make like super materials, like stronger materials. That's why like it's stronger than regular glass.
Yeah,
With
it's
these
amorphous. Yeah, that's true. So it
it
is
doesn't have a
pliable.
crystalline. Yeah, if you smash it, it doesn't have like a solid line or crack for the fracture to follow. It
That's
kind of just
crazy.
goes into a dead end somewhere. And but they talk about the formalism of the replicant field theory has also been applied to the study of neural networks, where it has
Mm.
enabled calculations of properties such as the storage capacity of simple neural network architectures. So this is interesting because one of the things that they said about the Roswell craft is that it was like alive, that it was thinking, it was like a conscious machine. And the metals that the metals, it was literally a photonic computer, like a quantum computer of some kind.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And this spin glass stuff is what we're going to need to build these quantum computer architectures. I believe that the current these current models that they have of these computer architectures are not going to work in the ways you know some of the stuff that they're doing with quantum computing. That there's been a lot of controversy in quantum computing lately, and that's because I think it's been misled on purpose, because the real quantum computing needs to be done with these spin glasses. And I think this technology came. I really feel like we have evidence of certain things. We don't have evidence of any of this stuff. There's no smoking gun. I think that's what everyone's looking for.
Yeah.
As everyone wants this smoking gun with this research on metals and stuff, and we don't have a definite smoking gun. What we have is that stuff goes to Wright-Patterson, and then from Wright-Patterson we know that there's been a couple, from Anthony Brigalia's research, there's been a couple metal studies that were done in the 40s on for a contract for Wright-Patterson. So Battelle is one of these organizations that is a big contractor, and they do a lot of metals studies contracts for the government. But what's interesting is that Battelle's was founded in 1938, so like
Wow.
10 years before Roswell.
Well,
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, if you got a question about this, then go ahead.
Well, I was
Um,
just going to say it's interesting because you were talking about the neural connection, and that's what people have said who have been abducted and been on these craft, that they've been connected to the craft through the aliens' minds. It's almost as if they don't even have any controls; they just think it, and the craft goes where it needs to go. Is that the kind of interaction you're saying that could possibly happen with this stuff?
there might be brain computer interfaces that could work with this. Again, this is not exactly what I'm describing, but
Okay.
that is another thing that's come out of this whole mess of Bigelow research projects, right? That was in that 38 FOIAs. That was in the 38 scientific papers. There was a paper on that was released by. There's another FOIA by a guy named Stephen Aftergood, and if you look
So,
up Stephen Aftergood FOIA,
So these FOIA requests, when they were requested, they did they ask for just UFO crash debris or government? Did it have the word government in there, like government held UFO debris?
this is a different FOIA, but you can read the FOIA requests, the original FOIA requests, and
Okay.
you can read through all that stuff. And I'm not the one to really get into that.
Okay.
I'm hoping that John Greenwald's going to have Anthony on, and those two are going to go through all this with a fine tooth comb and weed out all the weeds. And that's on them. And I'm better that I'm not playing the middleman in that anymore, and that they're interacting directly. And I'm glad that I was a catalyst to get that going, because I just can't stand seeing, like people talking about each other but not having a direct dialogue or communication. It
Interest.
just
Yeah.
I feel
Just
like there needs to be more of that and more argument. And then what happens is that we come out and debunk something, we find some evidence that debunks something, and then automatically that person blocks you from their channel. And it's not that you're trying to hurt them or take revenue stream away from them, or that you're
right.
like, we need to be open to debunkings, because debunking, if it's real debunking, it helps all of us get closer to the truth and stuff in ways, and the more
Yeah.
ideas that we, him censoring a guy like me, like, and saying that, I'm spamming him with the information that I'm sending him. It's like, obviously you're not watching it, but I have some really interesting stuff to share. Like, I'm sorry that it's a lot of information, and I jump around a lot because I have so much of it, but
No,
it's
no, this is great. And for those who do want to hear an interview with Bergelia, he was on Tercer Molino, I believe it is, for Jaime Maussan. It's dubbed in, Spanish, but you can read it as they're doing the interview. It's pretty interesting. Have you seen that?
no, I haven't seen that.
It's pretty cool.
Can you
Yeah, it
guys
goes.
still see my screen? I'm
Yeah, yeah, we
showing.
see it all. Yeah.
So this is I didn't want to release this yet, but I can't help myself when I find something. I wanted
That's
I
like
wanted to
me.
put I wanted to get the original video of this, and there's a higher quality video of this that I'm gonna get and make into a documentary of some kind, at some point. But I found this rare 1950s Walt Disney um, NASA video about space exploration. It was like, this is predates NASA. NASA was 1958 that NASA was created. So this is
All right.
like NACA, the orbiter project, and the precursor to NASA. But it's got Werner von Braun in it, and talking about rockets. And here they are with a saucer, and talking about sending these saucer-shaped craft to Mars. And they have a video animation of these saucers going to Mars. And they're talking about the technology all back in the 50s.
That's
And
crazy.
I don't know. This is just weird stuff, because we go back and forth on my channel quite a bit. I'll give people a little introduction to what we do on my channel, because it's a lot of stuff, right? We bring a lot of scientists on, and with different viewpoints. We have engineers too that we're working with who actually build stuff and show people how to build stuff. We did this. My lead engineer is this guy Jeremiah. He's wicked smart. He built this electric wand that works like a real magic wand, and just runs on regular flashlight batteries. And
Wow.
there's been a couple big channels too that have covered this and stuff. And so I don't know. We do some interesting work. I like to have skeptics like on too, and we debate like we'll get like the biggest skeptic on a topic, and then get like other researchers and bring them in for and try to get debates and stuff going. Sometimes doesn't always work out. Some people just really don't like each other, which is fine. But
I see that balloon.
we got this. I linked up with this guy Tim Ventura on from American Antigravity. He's got a YouTube channel called American Antigravity, and I used to follow this guy way back in the day. And we kind of started up these conferences on our own, doing. Group of us kind of came up with this idea of doing conferences on anti-gravity and trying to get push disclosure, scientific disclosure, by inviting scientists out of the community to come forward and talk about this stuff and share information. Because I've found so much through my research, but I know that these people who wrote these papers, the people who wrote all the papers on all this metallic glass stuff that you can go and look up, those are the people that we want to be talking to. They're the ones. Yeah. They're the ones balls deep in that secret SAP's research programs that everyone in this community's been dying to get their hands on for years, and now it's been so much has come out in the last 3 years. It's been absolutely incredible, and so many people are like coming out of the woodwork, and that's kind of what we're trying to encourage, is like this community where people can come out of the woodwork and share information and ideas openly and freely, and be have a community where we're trying to be there's been some issues of like we want to have credibility with like better scientists. We want to have as many, but we want to also we realize that some of these scientists have been involved in some research that's borderline. Some of it's been a lot of times the CIA has people do weird studies for whatever reason, like the mind control studies or remote viewing or some of these other things that the CIA has done. And, there's scientists who've been involved in that. And, sometimes they don't want to talk. In fact, Hal Puthoff has not wanted to talk at our conference. He's denied the opportunity. And it's unfortunate, man. I wish he was. I've criticized TTSA a lot for not doing more on the science end, and being more about entertainment and not doing enough on the science. And meanwhile, it's been a lot of these other researchers doing the FOIAs that's got a lot of that science declassified and come out. And this was confirmation for me, because I was talking about a lot of these metallic glass and metamaterials like 10 years ago, and then to have like this come out of these programs saying that we're researching this stuff in programs, and somehow it's connected to alien metals research. It's kind of good confirmation for me to let me know, hey, you're on the right track with this stuff. Keep digging and keep talking to more of these scientists. What's interesting is that some of these scientists, you got to take the good with the bad. I feel like we invite these people on. Some of them have really great information, and then some of them have these wacky ideas that kind of, that some physicists would be like, I don't even want to be involved with this group because there's a bunch of nuts in here, and there's all these people have, their. But the problem is that even some of those nuts, like some of these guys that say the craziest stuff and sound like portray themselves to be like the biggest charlatans, and what you would call a charlatan, throw out everyone else's research and only listen to me, those type of people. And I never was one of those people. I've always said, do your own research. I could be very wrong on the stuff that I'm finding and my views on what I'm finding in my own research. So please do your own research and talk to other people and talk to as many different people as possible to get their viewpoints. And even though I don't agree with everything that every single one of these speakers have presented, there's gems in every one of these presentations.
Yeah.
There's little gems in there.
I thought Bigelow said he didn't have alien metals.
Right.
And
he
then
said
yet
he
here,
didn't.
yeah. And then here it is in the FOIA, right? Isn't that showing it?
It's not showing that it's alien metals in that FOIA. No, it's showing that they were interested in some of this metals research and this scientific research for space applications.
Okay.
But there's no like hard documentation that any alien metals went to Bigelow Aerospace or were analyzed for any sort of engineering purposes or reverse engineering purposes. What there is evidence of, though, is that Bigelow built the facilities and hired the contractors and was set up to do this research there. But it doesn't look like he actually got those contracts or actually got a hold of that material. And I'll tell you who did, who got the contract for the new skin coatings, right?
Lockheed.
Battelle.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
So
Figures,
let's
right?
see. I'll show you
Yeah.
this one right here, and I'll post this.
Do you have a degree at all?
So I have a bachelor's degree in physics from. I went to Bridgewater State University in Bridgewater, Mass, and I got my degree in physics and a
Cool.
minor in
Okay.
math. So I'm not like a PhD. I don't like like a, but I have enough. What I kind of realized that I don't want to be a PhD and just get deep on that side. I like being the guy. So they need a guy who's like in the middle, like me, who can read physics papers and then be like, all right, I'm gonna go on Rich's show and explain this to a bunch of people who who haven't touched algebra since high school.
Right. Yeah.
So you're not
So
on
if
these.
but if you had a PhD, you wouldn't be able to go on the shows. Is that how it works?
No, it's just that I feel like you can be. I don't know. If I feel like I'm still relatable here in my environment, and I've looked into going back to grad school and trying to and going to get a PhD and stuff, and I spent like I barely finished on my undergrad degree because I was too busy reading physics papers online and spending my time researching this stuff because this is what I'm interested in, and there's no graduate in school in the country that you can go to for alien technology and black projects research. They don't, I can kind of
Yeah.
tell you where a lot of those schools are doing some research where I would go. Okay,
Hmm.
University of Rochester would probably be my number one choice. They have an optics lab. They do a lot of great research there. Um, there's also the U.S. Air Force Institute of Technology, but that's I think only open to people who are in the Air Force. I'd have to have been in the Air Force first to go to AFIT, I believe. But there's definitely classified science and physics
Yep.
research that goes on at AFIT. Um, Another one is Wright State University, right? So
Yep.
right next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is a Wright State University, which by the way, did you know that Wright State University has a 1.8-mile tunnel system that connects all the buildings underground?
No, I didn't know that. That's cool.
And there's a rumors on campus, right? You find about the tunnel system. There's a whole bunch of articles on the rumors about that the tunnels go back that there was alien research that went on in the tunnels from
Oh,
Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So
that's
they call
awesome.
it conspiracy theories, and I've tweeted them about this and stuff. Yeah, this is interesting thing. I'm going to go into this because your audience will definitely get a kick out of this, right?
Be, Real quick, was there any mention of metamaterials anywhere in the documents, or
Oh,
is that
in the
what?
new FOIA, you're talking about. Yeah,
I'm
from
sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so the 150. Yeah, there is mention of metamaterials in there.
Okay.
And they do talk about metamaterials in there and some of the metamaterials research and invisibility research and stuff like
Right.
that.
The light bending. The light. Yeah.
Yeah,
Takes
light
light real
bending,
fast. Yeah. Light bending.
mappings. There's a bunch of so one of the physicists who's done a lot of research on this is Ulf Leon Lenhart. Yeah, I'm gonna teach you guys some physicists. There's way more people working on this stuff than just Bob Lazar.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone talks about Bob, but dude, there's a million other physicists that we could name and go into.
Yeah. We've got
Let's
a
name
few
a couple.
here that visit GoofOn, and they always bring up some good points.
Heck
So
yeah,
I'm interested. Yeah,
I
definitely.
watch your show too, time to time. Definitely when I can. Oh, third phase of the moon. Yes,
Yeah,
dude.
they a $10 super chat says, "What's your thoughts on the subterrane files?" If you want to talk about this first and then talk about subterrane, or
You
but
know
thanks for the
what?
super chat,
I
guys.
saw I saw third phase of the moon's video on that subterranean files and stuff,
Yeah,
and I want to dig into some of that stuff. I would love to talk. I would love to get into some of that stuff. It's interesting because Right. So let's talk about the Wright State tunnel system first,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
There's a lot of tunnels that were built back in the 40s, like bomb shelters and stuff. Okay. There's a place
Yeah.
called, what's that place called in the Greenbrier. Have you heard
Hmm.
of the Greenbrier Resort?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so the Greenbrier Resort was one of these places. There was another place where this prison system, the Langdon or Lanton, I forget the name of the prison. That they had a whole bomb shelter that was built under the prison with these evacuation tunnels right near out of Washington. That was declassified. It came out after. They got stuff like this now. Who knows what it is? But there's this one's one of the most interesting that I've come across recently, because you go to Wright State University and you can see, just type in Wright State Tunnel System on Google, right?
Okay.
Wright State Tunnel System, and you'll get all these images. Click on the images tab, you'll see all these pictures. And they say that these tunnels were built for HVAC ducts, and then they were remodeled to be student ducts so that they could walk through. But these are, you could drive a car down these
Right. I
things.
was just
Like,
gonna
why,
say.
why they're way too big for HVAC ducts. So that, like, that story just doesn't make sense, bro. And like, I really feel like I want to do core drill samples, because I feel like when they remodeled these, and the HVAC duct tunnels, they basically just poured new concrete walls so that all the construction down here was concurrent with 1968 construction, and it didn't go back to the 1940s when I think these tunnels may have originally been built. According to the rumors at the school, because look, there's this one spot, right? So the first tunnel was built under the first building on the campus. There's pictures of this,
Hmm.
and it's called Allen Hall, but it's spelled Allyn.
Why?
This is Wright State.
For J. Allen Hynek?
It's like Alien Hall.
Oh, right. That's crazy.
It's literally Alien Hall. This is a
That's
picture of it when it was
crazy.
first made, right? So it's this, and they said it
Oh,
was just an
wow.
abandoned farm field when they first built it, right?
Yeah.
But I would love to see the construction. These are the early construction photos, but it doesn't show what was underground. They could have had maybe tunnels underground that they rebuilt it into. So
Of course they
this is,
did.
I don't know. It just makes me wonder, like, if they did or didn't. But you go on the map right here. So here's Alien Hall, and there's a tunnel that goes over to here to this building, then it goes over to there. But right here is where it looks like
Wow.
there may have been a tunnel, because it's like literally a straight line, and the trees don't grow right in this section. This is all recently developed over. But if we just keep going a straight line all the way over to there, we get right to AFIT. Here's Air Force
Oh,
Institute of
wow.
Technology,
Yeah.
and here's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is the
Oh,
wind
come
tunnel, and this
on.
is like the whole underground. So I've heard rumors that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has like one of the biggest. There's an underground city there, is what I've heard. It
Of
was built
course
back in the
there is.
40s.
Of
Like,
course.
I heard rumors that there was an underground city there, and it's not that hard to think, like, oh, if there's an underground base right here, it could have connected over all the way over to here.
It did.
You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
makes sense to me, and I would love to have like a UFO hunters investigation where we go to Wright State has already engaged with me on Twitter about, and they're pretty much open to this. I would love to get all the construction photos, find the
Wow.
contractors, find the contractors. They're probably still alive. They're probably in their 80s or 90s now. This was built in 1968. This Allen Hall place, right? So all these guys got to be like, around still. A lot of them probably
Yeah.
live in Ohio. There might be people from the military, like, they can talk about this. There's got to be more. There's got to be more to this, bro. There's
That is
got to be.
really interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because it connects with the like some of this underground tunnel stuff that he's been talking about. And one of the things that you got to do is reach out. Like, one thing I encourage is just call these, find, look, go to Google and type in tunneling contractor, right?
Yeah.
And you can call these people up. Call them up and pretend you're $1 million business deal, and you're, like, you want questions and you want to know how fast they can tunnel per day. You can get information from
That's
these people. You know what I mean? Call them up and just be like, look, I want to know I need a tunnel built. I have an unlimited. Tell them you have an unlimited budget and you need to know how fast they can tunnel per day, and that way you can get actual statistics on these things, instead of like listening to people who claim these things.
Do you
Because
think they would
and what it
tell
will
us?
cost.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think they would tell us what kind of tunnel machine they use?
Yeah, Yeah, they probably, you can go look up the recent, the state of the art in tunneling technology. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
tunneling technology, and there's a lot of people maybe that think like there's something more advanced, but this is like what works. This is what you got to look at. Real contractors. What I always say is like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that talk about secret programs and stuff, but unless you can find real contractors, because you need real people who have real jobs working for these companies. Okay, it's not this. You want to separate the imaginary stuff from the real stuff. You need to find real contractors, and you need to call contractors and talk to real contractors and stuff. And I think that this is, if these things exist and have been done, there are people that are out there that have built these things. And guess what? They're people just like you and me, and they might be willing to talk about certain things once they're ready. You
Yeah.
find them, and this is a good avenue of research that I would
Cool.
encourage Third Phase of the Moon and anyone who's, because I see a lot of those guys researching these tunnel systems and stuff, right?
Yeah.
These mega boring machines. I watch these videos on, this is like the state of the art technology that they're
This
using
is
in
crazy.
France and stuff. Um,
What?
Really interesting, powerful
Wow.
machines, but this is how it's done. This is the most
That's crazy.
energy and cost efficient way, because you get guys like Phil Schneider who talk about this rock conflagration technology that he supposedly had, and then
Yeah.
I was curious about that, man. I'm like, do they really have friggin' these high powered laser drills that just zap the rock and melt it and cause, like, and I called some tunneling contractors and started asking them, anyone know about this stuff? Is this something that's going on, that's secret, that, people don't talk about or something? And the engineers laid it out flat, like the energy, arguments for it. I met a guy who was like, I made friends with him, and he laid out the energy, like this is just way more cost effective from a contractor and an engineering standpoint than if you were to try to build a laser or any machine that would do that with a laser. I mean, the
So,
amount of energy that would take to melt through rock with a laser beam.
yeah.
Like, you got to think like the size. Look at that's an excavator. Look at the
Yeah.
size of these things.
It's
You know how
huge.
much it takes so much energy just to melt a little tiny piece of rock. Could you imagine, like, all that rock? I
Well,
don't.
yeah. Well, the way the
So
subterrane worked was really unique. Yeah, that laser would have to melt rock. Yeah, that's great. Turns it to lava, and then you'd have to remove the rock. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
lot to
It's a
take
lot
in.
to take in for scientifically, for me to find, and then for me to go and do the research on it to try to find where there's got to be contract. If this was going on, as Phil Schneider said, since the 50s, there's got to be contractors who do it this way. And why isn't there? It just doesn't make sense. So you kind of like, I use that as my scope of, what I believe in and where I, because I try to stick to the evidence. And if people aren't doing these stuff, I don't know. Maybe there's a bunch of aliens building these bases, right, with alien
Maybe.
technology. But
Well,
but I try to stick with what we know and what we can, what makes
yeah.
sense.
What's tangible? Well, third phase of Moon said the subterrane was a nuclear machine. That's right. It was supposed to be run by nuclear power. That's right.
Interesting.
I
Yeah. Well,
know.
about what's the project, Sudan crater right there? You know what I'm talking about? The Sudan crater was part of where's that project?
Sudan
The
crater. I'm
Sudan
thinking.
crater was part
Yeah.
of Operation Plowshare. It was
Okay.
called. So Operation Plowshare was like underground mining with nukes. This is an actual underground mining nuclear research that was done. So
Okay.
they were trying to figure out nuclear excavation for the moon. If they
Jeez.
could send nukes to the moon and bury them. They built these nukes that could, like, that the radiation will dissipate in a short amount of time, so that they can become habitable, like, almost right away.
Wow. It looks
So
like a moon crater.
yeah, so they would be able to build these craters, and then, I don't know how, somehow put a top over it and build a base in there or something.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe a Buckminster Fuller dome, one of those, like the Epcot Center dome over the top of it. And
Yeah.
that was
Probably.
that was the ideas they had back in the 50s and 60s. When they were doing this stuff, that was the ideas of the times, man. If you go back and read all the, history on this. So that was cool on the Wright State tunnel system, though. Look at these tunnels. There's no way these were used for HVAC ducts and then
No.
just remodeled. You could drive a truck through here. These
It
were
would be the
tunnels.
size of a little vent. It wouldn't be that big. It would be yeah, way
Well,
smaller.
if they remodeled it and put like an extra foot
Yeah.
on the walls to cover up the 1940s construction with 1960s
Jeez.
construction, then maybe it would be maybe these tunnels were even bigger. They might have poured a new floor in here, to
That's interesting. Yeah.
hide all the alien blood that was seeped into the laboratory room.
So is
Or
is Phil Schneider lying about
Phil
being?
Schneider,
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe Phil Schneider. I wouldn't call him a liar, but I don't. I know that from my research that he's been connected to a lot of these hoax groups and stuff, and I don't know if I believe everything that man said. He just seems like I try to believe what there's the most evidence for, and that rock conflagration technology thing was just like, it doesn't make any sense, and there's no contractor in the world who does it like that because of the energy requirements. So it's I heard from his ex-wife that he cut his own fingers off and then said that aliens shot it off in the underground, a war with underground in these underground tunnels, right? That's
What?
the
That's
story.
that's a crazy person right there. Then
Yeah,
no way. Well, it
that's
looked
what
like
they
he
say
had.
about him. But
Yeah, it looked like he had
so
heart surgery though. Doesn't that
I heard
scar?
he
Yeah.
was a self mutilator and like he was in a couple mental institution and like cut off his own fingers and stabbed himself in the chest and like
Oh my
and a
God.
bunch of other stuff. Like I heard, that's what
Oh
his
my!
wife.
I didn't know. I
That's what his
never.
ex-wife said, apparently, in the testimony that I read about him.
Wow. And I did a story about him with third phase of moon. Never heard that. That's crazy.
It's interesting. I look at both sides and I'm like, well, there's one hand, this guy's either completely nuts, crazy, and making all this up, or he's telling the truth. And I don't know. I meet a lot of crazy people too in my life that have told some crazy stories, and and I don't know how much I spent. I believe I was more open to a lot of that stuff years ago, and now like after 15 years in this field, I'm like, we need actionable intelligence. We need like stuff that people can sink their teeth into. Like that's why I like this Wright State tunnel system. We can go there and drill a hole through the wall and find out if there. We can go here and drill a hole into the ground and find out if there's old tunnels anywhere here. Why the trees don't grow in this line going straight from the base over to here. Is it just because of the electrical wires that they decided to put there, or is there something else? This is real stuff that we can go out and find that will open up, all kind of can of worms. And then my Google Maps just stops working on me like that. But anyways, let's talk about some of these other institutions there's Carnegie Mellon. There's a whole bunch of cool institutions that I've found doing a lot of interesting different types of research. But again, it's all what you study and what you're into and what you're going to get picked up on. This is a great little gadget if you're into gadgets and gadgetry. This is called a software defined radio. And you can plug this into your computer and do broadcasting. You got to be careful not to broadcast on own frequencies. You can't just broadcast
What
on.
is that? That is crazy.
So
So
you can pick up, this is like a scanner extraordinaire ultra. So if you like scanners,
yeah, I
like you
do.
talk about scanners
I
and
used to
stuff,
have one. Yeah.
you can program this with software so you can listen in on all the different, so you got to get for scanners, you have to get specific. Each like police department has their own specific
Yeah.
frequency that they use and it's allocated. So you got to find out that frequency that police station uses, and then you can program it into this device, and you can listen in on all your local police or
They have apps for that too, though.
there's a bunch of apps for it, but this is the hardware component that you need to,
Yeah.
to, to do all that with your computer. And
Wow.
a lot of people don't know about this kind of stuff. I like to teach people about, these kinds of things because
But that
it's
can pick
useful
up
and helpful.
as long as you have their channel, right? You can just listen to anything.
Yeah, and sometimes they use like encryption or so sometimes you need computer software that can decrypt the
Oh
signals and
wow.
stuff for different types of radios. But basically, if you do the research, you can hack anyone. Pretty much, you can hack even if it's a police department that uses an encrypted signal. You just go like, all right, well they use Panasonic radios. Let me get they use this model radio, and you can find the app that descrambles that
That is
or someone.
amazing. That's
There's lots
scary.
of.
That
Oh
is
yeah, it's pretty.
scary.
It's scary that people don't know. More people don't know about it. Is what's scary.
Not that expensive either for doing what it does.
Not anymore. There's some that do much higher frequency ranges, and they can go up pretty expensive, like
Would
tens
you
of
be able?
thousands.
Yeah, I can imagine what the military must have. But can it pick up phones if you got? I guess if you got the right signal, right?
Phones are a little different, okay, and they require a little bit more complicated computer encryption. But there's a what's it called? The Shark. Cell phone. What's the shark thing? There's a what's the thing that they were using to hack the cell phones? They can use it. A lot of cell phone hacks done through Bluetooth now. So turn your Bluetooth off when you
You're
go to like
kidding.
certain areas. You have to turn your Bluetooth off because that's how they're hacking a lot of people. You
Oh
can
my
get
God,
right on
that's
your phone through
awful.
Bluetooth and download apps.
Holy shit.
What the heck is this thing called? This is what the FBI was using to Stingray. The Stingray.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
So this is a Stingray, and that's what you need to do cell phone tracking, and you can
Jeez.
track people with Stingray. So that's a little bit more expensive piece of equipment, a little bit different, but it's called cell tower spoofing. Is that you actually have an equipment that pretends to be a cell tower, and it spoofs the cell tower signal, so that you can basically figure out, you can connect with someone's phone and maybe even listen in, because it broadcasts that signal to the towers, and you pretend to be this tower so that you can get the signal.
That's absolutely amazing. And you know what? It's not that it's totally unaffordable. It's a couple $1,000s. three
Right.
thousand
The
dollars you could
FBI
have.
was buying them and using them. There was a big controversy over it. They're flying
Jeez.
around with the Stingray in an airplane. Trying to. They said they were tracking terrorists, but they're listening to us talk about UFOs.
Everything and everyone. Yeah. I would, wouldn't you? I mean, that's what they're.
Right.
Why else would they go? We're going to be careful and not to listen to Joe next door neighbor. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
We're gonna be careful not to spy on Trump or
Yeah.
Obama. It collects
You mean they did it?
information against our political enemies. Right? No,
It's
we
crazy.
wouldn't do that. Watergate wasn't.
No. You can
It was a
trust the government.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's all it was. It was an accident. Guy hit the wrong button.
You know. So we have a couple things going on. We have a drive where we collect a lot of patents and stuff right now on our drive, and we have a kind of a database going for information on just technologies, patents, stuff related to the history of this. So spin glass is particularly interesting. Metallic glass doesn't go back, only goes back to like the 1980s. Like that first transparent glass was that 1982 transparent aluminum with that company we just showed, Surmet Company.
Yeah.
Surmet, that, so that's when they first created it in 82. That was the first metallic glass. But these spin glasses kind of go back to the 60s, apparently, with some of the research that I've seen on that, which is curious because I'm still trying to dig into the history of the spin glass, because these neural architectures, this is basically quantum computing, optical computers that they can make with this glass, and also things that, like, they describe this, like when they got, I heard one guy say that when he got inside the, like, one guy's story who said he walked inside a UFO said that when you got inside of it, you could see through the walls outside the craft in
Yeah.
all directions, see through the floor, see everything. Really interesting, and this is only material I know of that could be look metal one way and then be clear and transparent another. It's, you know what I mean? You look for science that can explain these things, and instead of just throwing these stories away as hogwash and nonsense. We're now finding science that can kind of, oh my God, this explains your batshit insane crazy story about UFOs.
Right.
Now we're actually coming up with science that can account for this stuff, and explain it with real technologies. It's kind of cool. So
So if it goes back to the 60s, this glass and everything that you could see through, now 50 something years later, where do you think they are as far as this technology, using it in what capacity, and where do you think they're at with it?
So as I mentioned before, a lot of this stuff went to Battelle. as we know for the records, or the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base contracted the best metals experts in the world at the time, which was this company in nearby Dayton, Ohio, right near, actually, sorry, Wright-Patterson's in Dayton, Battelle is in Columbus, Ohio. So they contracted Battelle to do a lot of this metals research, and if you look up Battelle, they now manage all of our national labs. The,
Wow.
which is really interesting. So all the research that gets done at our national labs basically, has to get cleared or is run in through the management of Battelle, which is really, says a lot about, these people that say like free energy machines have been suppressed and that, alien technology is shut down by the government. And everyone's like pointing the fingers about where's the documentation and why can't we get any information through FOIA? Why is there no smoking gun? And the answer is that Battelle's a private institute. It
Oh,
doesn't have to obey FOIA laws. It doesn't have.
clever. Yeah.
So it makes the perfect excuse. It goes back to 38, and Britt Galley has done a great job exposing Battelle as this, this is why we don't have the hardcore smoking gun document on any of this stuff, because it all went to Battelle Memorial Institute and has been hidden in these stovepipe operations for the past, 70,
Man,
80 years.
they thought of
And
everything. Yeah.
it's like, damn, they thought of everything. And then when I feel like that, when John Greenwald finds out about, he doesn't want anyone to find out about this because he wants to think that his FOIAs and his document archive has the the end all say all conclusions on what exists out there in forms of the record of UFOs and stuff. And this proves that's just not the case. This organization probably has files that are still classified to this day, going back to the 50s and 60s.
That's unbelievable.
It's really unbelievable, and I
Put
think
it
it's
with yeah.
it's a revelation for a lot of people. But back to your original question about where this material is going today, right? I had that. So about those blasting microwaves. If you Google this, unlock hypersonic
Uh-oh.
speeds, right?
All right. Yeah.
So if you
Here we
type
go.
in this is what you have to. This is how many words you have to type in to find the
Jeez.
article, because Google stinks now, man. I can't find anything on Google. I got to go to DuckDuckGo or some of these other search engines. So now, sometimes it's like they hide search results and they
Yep.
put all this ads up in the top, and it's like, come on, guys, this is not what I'm looking for, Anyways, this is an article by The Drive, Brett Tingley. I'm trying to get Brett to come on for an interview. He did another great interview with Project Unity recently.
Oh
This
yeah.
guy's been doing some great research. He's the one that got all that Salvatore Pais stuff out with the U.S. Navy patents. This is
Hmm.
all this guy, same guy.
That's amazing. Okay, good. Good to know
So
that. Yeah.
this is like real government declassified documents. These are all like linked to in the description. If you go follow the links in here, you can find some of these patents and some of these devices that show like these saucer-shaped craft that blast microwaves in front of the saucer to literally open up the air in front of the saucer and allow laminar flow of the saucer through air or water without any drag or resistance. And that's how they are able to unlock these Mach 5 plus speeds, unprecedented, speeds. Mach
Yep.
10, Mach 10. It's talking about in this
Jeez.
patent. This is insane. This is insane stuff, and it's super advanced. It talks about directed energy weapons research. I've talked to a lot of Navy guys and Air Force guys about this, their thoughts on Space Force and what's going on right now, and they say
Hmm.
a lot of this technology goes back to the SDI program under Reagan, the Star Wars Defense
Yeah.
Initiative,
Yeah.
and like all this directed energy weapons research and stuff that they're now using to, it goes back to the to that time. I don't know if you've heard of Lightcraft
Yes.
International. Lightcraft was this
Yep.
guy Lake Marabou, and
Yep.
he was a NASA scientist working on propulsion, and this is like the Rocketdyne Corporation and a couple of these other labs were working on some of these propulsion for using microwaves to blast on metal to like propel stuff around with
Yeah.
lasers, and they could basically shine lasers on stuff and use these ion and make ionize. This relates back to Project Bluebeam because they were doing it in the air to make patterns, and they could draw shapes in the air with these laser arrays, these 3D dot matrix laser arrays. They can actually draw things in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were talking about drawing UFOs in the sky with these laser beams so that people would have sightings and stuff,
False flag.
and
Yeah.
false flags, and also like they could make a they were trying to make Jesus's face in the clouds, or
Yes.
Buddha in the clouds or something, so they could have like make these people, it was psychological operations
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
Really crazy stuff for military applications. And I also found a patent on this stuff for using these lasers to actually they can guide these little spacecraft modules with the lasers. But they actually there's a patent on taking control of airplanes using the lasers, and
Mm.
being able to like shine them on the leading edge of like the one wing, so you can actually turn the airplane like
That's
by
crazy. Yeah.
shining lasers on it. There's some really weird stuff that they did research on, and that's been declassified and has come out. And how
Isn't
much?
I was going to ask you, isn't this what they were going to use, like for future space travel that can get us up to half the speed of light or something like that? Was this that technology?
So maybe like solar
Photon?
sail
Or...
stuff, like solar
Yeah, something
sails
like
and
that,
stuff.
right? Is
So
that
there
how
was
this
solar
would?
sail project and solar sail technology. It's
Yep.
similar. It's similar, but this would be like assisting it with like a based microwave station that would
Okay.
blast microwaves on the solar sail. Just uses sunlight, but this would be like a sail that would uses an assisted microwave. And then, like, of course, everyone said, like, well, it doesn't make much sense to be blasting it from the ground. Can't we mount the microwave on board the craft
Right.
itself? And that's what this patent was about, that he released here with this new Mach 10, Mach 6 drones that are coming out. They put the laser right on board the craft, and they just blast the air in front of the craft with it from the craft itself. And
Wait, you blast the air in front of it to do what?
to ionize it, it supercavitates the air. It superheats it. It superheats up the air. It cooks it so hot that it literally it causes it to like vaporize and move out of the way completely, and creates a supercavitated vacuum. So
Whoa.
you can just travel through this open vacuum in front of the craft. And then there's talk about the next stage of this being, the literal warp drive with the space-time metric engineering, which is a whole nother level of stuff with that to get into with the warp drive research and space-time metric engineering. And we're kind of working on that stuff in our group, and trying to talk to more people in physics that are working on warp drive. It's considered fringe science right now, but there's been a lot of groups working on warp field experiments, and a lot of we've had a
Yeah.
lot of these guys in our discussion groups, and gone. Eric Davis is in a couple of the emails, Jack Sarfati, and you want
Yeah.
to think you want to talk about. People want to think that I'm offensive in the way that I talked to Mr. Greenwald this morning. They should read some of the emails I have from Jack Sarfati calling me a stupid Pollock and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you're
It's
not
pretty.
even a Pollock.
It's hilarious. I am
No, I'm
Polish. Yeah.
joking. It
No,
was
there was another guy in the group actually that was this guy Ziggy. He was calling us stupid Pollock and stuff. But
jeez.
like you gotta understand that
Amazing.
we I don't take offense to people throwing some slurring insults at me. I don't
Yeah.
take offense to that stuff. I got a bigger, thicker skin than that. But some of the stuff that John Greenwald said to me in response was just kind of. I feel like some of it was out of line. That I spam his channel and his chat windows. I'm trying to share information with you to like change you, like to share information, and I have a lot of it. I didn't try to spam you. And then he accused all my followers of being bots. I haven't been on YouTube since 2008 and got all these subscribers organically. That I'm somehow I didn't never got these subscribers, and he left a whole
But
bunch of.
but I know he knows you because I've seen you interact with him over a long period of time, right?
he interacts with me occasionally on Twitter, but he didn't respond. He didn't read any of my research of the stuff that I sent him, and like the stuff that I've called him out on. He's never like acknowledged that, and it's kind of like what bothered me about it. But
One thing you did not mention yet, and I'm impressed you haven't, because on the panel with Third Phase, there's I think he's a physicist. He has a degree. His name's Alex, and he said there's no such thing, and you haven't mentioned it, as gravity. Do you believe there's gravity, or is it something else that's keeping us
so,
down?
well, this is all right. So yeah, there's obviously some kind of force. Like gravity is not a force, right? There's a lot of videos out. Gravity is not a force. Why gravity is not a force by Veritasium. This is great. And then Sabina Holsenfelder. These are some of the people that you want to listen to if you want to learn about like
Okay.
what physicists talk about when they talk about gravity and these things. Is gravity a force? This one by Sabina Holsenfelder. Let me find that
That
video.
okay. Yeah, we'll definitely check that out. Yeah.
She's got a great channel. She's a quantum gravity theorist, and she does a lot of thought experiments that are really great. Here, I'll send you this one. I'm gonna post that in the live chat. I'll post this one in the live chat. This is Sabina.
Yeah,
She's great.
I've seen her. Yep.
Um,
I didn't know that was her.
she's a raving bitch, and I love her. I love her for it. So yeah, she's great. She tears garbage to shreds, and with you know with science in science, even what other physicists are saying and what other physicists are doing, she goes
Wow.
off on them, and she's great. Definitely need more people like that engaging, because this when things are stagnant, you need a catalyst, and that's kind of how I view myself. I shake things up a bit, and not everyone's always happy about it, but at least I get things moving and hopefully in the right direction. But there's another channel called PBS Space Time. I'm talking about this. I don't want to, plug too many other channels without talking about this and answering the question for myself. But
That's all right.
here's a recent one that was posted, right? Does time cause gravity? And these a couple more recent ones by us by PBS Space Time talking about gravity.
I like
And
that guy. Yeah.
this guy's good too, yeah. So there's a couple different theories, man, and we bring all these different theorists out the top. We try to like reach all the people that are on the top theories of gravitation. I mean, Einstein's theory of relativity has sort of held for 100 years, and there's a lot of people that really don't like it and and fight against it. But I think like there's a reason that it stood for 100 years in physics, and there's a lot to be said about the complicated, mathematics that these people who wrote general relativity came up. So let's talk about general relativity a little bit. This is the main theory of gravity in physics. And Einstein's theory of general relativity is that matter warps space, and space warps space time. That's basically space and time are basically one and the same thing.
Hmm.
That time is space because everything's connected through photons. Everything's connected through light. That sort of the light is the way I interpret it is that the light is essentially creates the network. The light is the photonic interaction is is space time. It is the space time network that interlinks and connects everything through
Hmm.
light, and that it's a consequence of the connectivity and of the equations in the light that produce gravity. I really liked. So one of the recent guys we had on the show was Mike McCulloch, and he talks about Casimir effect gravity. And this is the best analogy I think to understand gravity, is that in the Casimir effect you have all these waves that are just sort of they call it the UNRRA radiation in this model. And the way I think of UNRRA radiation is just the ether. That's what Tesla described as this ether. It's this sort of just this sea of energy that's just floating around out there and interacting with everything.
Yeah.
Most of it's in this microwave range, in this microwave background radiation range, which is sort of like the after boom effect of like the early universe, supposedly. But it's really this like ether fluid, and another way of thinking about it is this UNRRA radiation, and that when you have two objects, there's certain amount of these waves that are damped between the two objects, so that certain waves get eliminated, and that noise effect on both sides of the plate actually creates a small force. And that force can be like calculated as gravity and as like a photonic interaction between matter and light through this field. That gravity really isn't a force; it's a pseudo force that's felt because of this noise in the motion of the ocean, the motion of the ether, basically, and that the space time is warped, or light is warped by the interaction of the
Yeah.
actual waves that are traveling back and forth. So it's a very sound theory on gravity now, but then we talk about this in terms of anti-gravity. How do we do that? Well, if it's really just light, then all we have to do to really warp the space-time of light is we need the right types of materials. So the types of materials we look for, one of them is left-handed metamaterials. So not just metamaterials, but
Yeah.
left-handed metamaterials
Never heard of it.
specifically.
Yeah.
So left-handed means that is a strange type of material where the laws of physics are sort of reversed for light in interacting inside these materials. And actually, light can travel faster. The phase velocity of light can travel faster inside these objects than it does in a vacuum. So you can basically use this kind of nonlinear optics for invisibility technology, but warping that space-time continuum, warping the light around your craft, can also warp gravity, according to like some of these theories that people in our group have been, these PhD scientists have been popping around and thinking about. And now it's up to the experimental physicists to really build these nonlinear optical materials. I think spin glasses are a great candidate for nonlinear optical materials that we want to test. And let's talk about some of that research into spin materials and some of the research that's been done. So
While you're getting that set up, I wanted to ask you, because this has been brought up many, many times over the years I've been in the field. What does mercury have to do with propulsion? Does it play into it? Like
yeah,
spinning mercury around real fast, does it create this wave or whatever?
so we got some stuff on that. I've been researching the idea of spinning mercury in waves. Okay, so apparently this stuff goes back to a guy named Victor Schauberger.
Hmm.
Is what I've traced it back to as far as the theory at the time. So this
Okay.
is mad scientist guy named Victor Schauberger, who had this repulsing engine that he had kind of
Yeah.
made up, the idea of using vortices and shaping the flow of air. Victor Schauberger, he died in 1958, 1885. So he was like in the early 1900s to around that area. And there's another guy named Louis Rota on ResearchGate. Yeah, Rex Research. Here it is. This guy right here, Louis Rota, and he built like some of these electric friggin' current planes in 1919, like way back in the day. And there's some pictures of these planes that he was working on, and like articles about it, like comparing it to Jules Verne.
That's crazy.
Here it is. So check this thing out.
That's amazing.
Look at this plane. This is from 1919. This is like
It's a Tic
early
Tac.
gravity research, right? It's a little mini Tic Tac, right? So this research was going on. This is a little different than the left-handed metamaterials and those types of optical materials and that type of research. This is just using ion wind to create. You're electrolyzing the ions in the air, and then you're pushing them
Yep.
in order to push the craft. And it's not real anti-gravity, but it's still maybe could be used for propulsion. And that's actually what they used in the Bifold Brown's what they used in the nose cone of the X1.
Oh, really?
The X1 that Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in. They used bifold Brown effect in that point. You know how it's got the needle on the nose?
Yeah.
Well, they electrically charged that needle on the nose of the craft and these needles on the ends of the
Oh
wings,
my
right?
God. Yeah.
Because this is where the plane was ripping apart. This is where the vortexes would form, and the turbulent air currents would cause so much force on the plane that it would rip the plane apart in the test runs. So the way they got rid of it is these things are literally electrodes. They're charged to about 100,000 volts, and it creates a dissipation of the air around that part of the craft, so that it doesn't create those
It
turbulent
doesn't
flows.
disturb it.
It doesn't rip the
Unbelievable.
craft apart. That's how they got to beat the sound
Are we
barrier.
using that today still?
Yeah, as it was apparently on it released in. So I have a page on this on my website. Aviation Space Weekly released a thing about the B-2 stealth bomber. So there was the B-2. There was the B-2 Spirit bomber, and then there
Yeah.
was another version called the B-2 Advanced Technology bomber. Okay, so there's two different versions of the B-2, and not all the B-2s have this technology on them. So people need to be aware of that. But there was a certain version of the B-2 stealth bomber that used Battelle-Brown effect on the leading edge of the wing and the back of the wing, they electrically ionized the exhaust trail, and then they positively charge the leading edge, and it creates a lift differential, which decreases the weight of the craft by I believe as much as 20% or something, as I've
Wow.
heard.
That's huge.
But also they said it was they said that they're using it to obscure the radar trail, is what the way they said. But I don't know if it really does obscure the radar trail. I think that the radar trail is already obscured by the shape of the craft.
Right.
The one of the advantages to the first flying wings were invented by the brothers, Horton brothers, right?
Okay.
So the Horton brothers were these Nazi engineers for the Nazi scientists, and they were creating, experimenting with experimental aircraft during World War II, and they built the first flying wings, right, back in World War II.
Yeah.
These Horton brothers, and one of the things they noticed is without that back tail, the back fuselage was the main area in an airplane where the radar return was bouncing off of. So by eliminating that, these things were just naturally like stealth. They were naturally stealth because they limited, all the stealth technology went on with a project called Project Rainbow. Okay, if you
Okay.
want to learn about that and have some key search words, it was headed by a physicist named Edward Mills Purcell, and Purcell won the Nobel Prize for what's called nuclear magnetic resonance, and that's understanding that atoms could resonate with electromagnetic fields at different frequencies, and that
Wow.
they were starting to map they started this Project Rainbow project with the CIA in the 50s to map out the entire electromagnetic frequency spectrum, all the radar returns and all the radar signals, and also all the different interactions of different materials with different radar frequencies. And then of course that's been extended with a lot of other research into just radio and biological issues. So ICNIRP.org is a good site to go to for information on biological effects of like non-ionizing radiation. So everyone who has questions about 5G and its effects on the body, these guys have some really great research where they literally have PDFs that they read like guides of all the. It's almost like dangerous information because it's a guide for all the frequencies that are bad frequencies and what they do, including like something called the microwave auditory effect. Have you ever heard of that?
I have actually. Yep.
That's the one where they can put the voices in your head. They can beam the
Yep.
voices into your head.
They used that here in Arizona when Trump came in 2016 to dispel the crowd.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, they can make loud, annoying noises in your head. They can make give you a headache. All with electromagnetic radar transmitted electromagnetic noise or energy.
That's wild stuff.
Yeah, and then there was talks about the Cuban embassy attacks and how the people at the Cuban embassy had evidence of being targeted by microwave weapons of some type. Yeah, very interesting stuff that the stuff's being used actively in intelligence warfare, and also in crowd control, as you mentioned. So interesting stuff. But yeah, back to that radar return thing. That's what the research they did, but it's naturally. So I don't know. There's things to be said about this. But yeah, again, it's the B-2. It's not the B-2 Spirit bomber, but there's another one called the B-2 Advanced Technology bomber that has this capability in it. And it's all based on a lot of this Battelle-Brown research, which isn't really anti-gravity, but it was still classified for decades. I think it was first really declassified in 2008 under Obama.
Hmm.
Um, and But up until that point, it was really just kept tongue in cheek, and it was, you could find some information about it going back. But back how this connects to Mercury is that one of the guys who was working on this, I have pictures of him actually working on some of this stuff, and he went to Byfeld Brown's laboratory, and he was one of the founding fathers of quantum gravity, and it's a guy named Bryce DeWitt. And Bryce DeWitt worked with another guy named John Archibald Wheeler,
Yeah.
who's another super interesting guy, knew Einstein. And both Wheeler and DeWitt worked for Battelle,
Interesting.
going way back, right?
Yeah.
So Wheeler was a contractor for Battelle. He was a metallurgy expert, did all kinds of, he was like a metals like research genius, super god, like he was Richard Feynman's doctorate advisor at
Wow.
Princeton.
Yeah.
So he taught like some of the greatest minds of the century. He was really one of these guys. He had his FBI file is super interesting. If you guys, I found that recently. I can post a link to it if I can find it. Wheeler FBI file. This is super interesting. There's a link to it on my website. If you guys go to my website and look up the thing on John Wheeler that's there, you can find some of this. But Wheeler, he worked with Bryce DeWitt on a lot of this stuff. When we have papers on Bryce DeWitt, let me find the paper from Bryce DeWitt on rotating superconductors. And this one goes back to the 1950s. I mean 1960s, sorry, not the 1950s. But all those gravitomagnetic fields in rotating superconductors, they were looking at this thing called the kinematic field, is what they used to call it. It used to be called kinematic fields. Let me type that in the
I guess that's like
live
kinetic
chat.
and
Yeah, it's like kinetic and mass.
yeah.
And that's kind of like their idea of it, kinematic. And there was a guy named so Bryce DeWitt. I'll type these names, they're hard to spell, so DeWitt, sorry, without the E, just DeWitt. And then John Archibald Wheeler, and then this guy, actually his name is Henry William Wallace.
Yeah, I know that
and
name.
yeah, right. Well, not the Henry William Wallace from Braveheart, but
Yeah.
he was from Valley Forge, PA. If you look up Valley Forge, PA, and he worked for GE on some of the General Electric anti-gravity research that was done back in the 60s, and he's got some interesting patents on these rotating machines that look very similar to like tokamak reactors, but with mercury spinning around inside of them. And apparently there was some research that was done on this back in the day, but I don't know that anything ever came of it, and I can't find anything like solid related to the theory of it, other than an obscure reference to a German paper that I haven't gotten a copy of and haven't read yet on gravity that was published in like 31. And I'm just going back through the literature trying to find the physics research that to kind of match this up. I did find was able to link this DeWitt guy to some of this research that was being done with this Henry William Wallace fellow.
Mhm.
And that DeWitt was publishing papers on similar stuff throughout the 60s and 70s. Well, this is supposedly that GE Aerospace in Valley Forge, PA, was doing these experiments with this stuff. But there's another experiment that happened in the 80s, which Boeing Aerospace did. So Boeing Aerospace actually did some Project Grasp. I don't know if you've heard of Project
I
Grasp.
haven't heard of that. No.
With Boeing, and this came later on with Eugene Podkletnov's research in the 90s. This was the Russian scientist who said he was having anomalous effects with rotating superconductors and some of his experiments. NASA did some replications on this down in Huntsville, Alabama. A woman named Ning Lee was working on this. Chinese American physicist named Ning Li. She was this was a
Oh
big
yeah.
story. It was a bigger story back in the day and stuff. But there was NASA was doing research into this. Apparently, Boeing had a this project Grasp under Boeing to go and research these rotating superconductors effects. This was in the early 2000s, like 2002 or so.
Oh.
But about 20 years before that, Boeing did another antigravity study called the Alzofan experiment, which we're trying to replicate currently. We have a little setup, and we're doing some tests with Alzofan antigravity's experiment. And this, yeah, gravity control with present technology is this is a book that we've gone through, and we've actually it was written by Frederick Alzofan's son, I believe. No, there's a book about Frederick Alzofan's the original researcher who did the work for Boeing, right?
Mhm.
But his son actually, I think, wrote the book, or I forget how that goes. But we actually interviewed his son. He was one of the first guests at the APEC conference.
Okay.
So that's on my channel. If you look up David
That's cool.
Alzofan,
Yeah.
we did an interview with him. We can have him back too. I have his phone number, and I'm gonna go play guitar with him at some point, because I guess his main job, he's a guitar teacher, and he's a
Oh
big
wow.
big guitar guy, which is cool. But his dad did anti-gravity research for Boeing, and he wrote a book about it, which is super cool. So I definitely got to hook up with him. I definitely got to go watch his presentation that he did on my channel, and his APEC conference presentation. And he's a good guy. He comes to a lot of the anti-gravity conferences that we still have, and sits in the background and listens and stuff. So he's super interesting that these people, it's like obscure. It's just like, hey, my dad worked on this, and here they are, these people coming out of the woodwork, years later to talk about it and stuff. It's great, and I think I'm hoping we get more people like this all the time. And I can't, as we expand our audience and reach more people, we're getting more and more people coming forward with information and talking about these kinds of programs and the research that's been done. But really, I'd love to find a smoking gun linking this to Battelle, and that it goes, that it's, aliens and stuff. But it's not something like that really exists. But you have some really smart people that have been doing some interesting stuff around this. Do you know about John von Neumann?
Actually, no.
So von Neumann was probably one of the smartest people that ever lived. Arguably, he was the human computer. He was one of the top physicists on the Manhattan Project. So yeah, all kinds of
Oh, okay.
top secret clearances. And there's rumors that like he was the man that they brought to Roswell, because if they needed a physicist, if aliens really crashed at Roswell, they'd obviously have to bring some physicists out there to come check that thing out, right? The best of the best. And von Neumann would have been the man, hands down. Interestingly, in October of 1947, just a few months after Roswell, he published a paper on self-replicating automata. So basically machines that can reproduce themselves.
That's amazing.
And that's super interesting. It does not a smoking gun that says, hey, he got this idea from stuff he saw at Roswell, but it makes you wonder, right?
It really does. Like, where do they get these ideas? I guess that it's in their imagination as well, but sometimes you wonder, like, what do they see? What do they know? What are they privy to that we're not? It's crazy.
Right. And then you have guys like, I have guys like Ed Fouché, who I used to talk to. He's the guy that started the whole TR3B story back in 1998. Ed Fouché I used to talk to, and Ed Fouché talked about quasi-crystals and metamaterials. And he always said that they were connected to these programs and stuff, which is interesting because you look up quasi-crystals, and the guy who won the Nobel Prize on quasi-crystals is a guy named Daniel Shechtman, and he did his postdoc after he graduated from Technion Institute of Technology with his degree in materials science. He did a postdoc at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So maybe that's where he got the idea for quasi-crystals, and because that's
Of
what
course he did.
consumed his research for the next 10 years, and then this stuff comes out. It's like, so I like this debate in this because you got guys like Anthony making this case, Bergalia making this case that like we're not going to have some. It's not like they're going to tell this guy who's working on this material at Battelle that it came from Roswell. He's going to be told nothing. They're just going to tell him it's Russian and that he's it's classified and that he's not allowed to talk about it. And then he's got these guys from Battelle who said that they've worked on stuff that they were like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that wasn't anything Russian or Chinese that I was working on back then, and some of the stuff it was beyond their level at the time, according to the scientists who come forward and talked about it. And that stuff intrigues me because it's this is what I would expect. I would not expect this kind of classified stuff to just be a smoking gun. It would of course leak out gradually through the guise of other programs and other research, right? The nitinol wire stuff that the nickel titanium alloy. Why did Battelle suddenly become interested in nickel and titanium alloys right after Roswell, and why were they suddenly interested in how to purify titanium to super high purities and doing all kinds of research on it? Is it just routine metals research that they were doing for aircraft applications? According to the skeptics, right? This is just normal, That's what Battelle did, is just metals research,
That's
which
all.
makes sense. But
Yeah.
you got to understand. From an intelligence perspective, if you're trying to get this stuff out, you need plausible deniability. So it's built into the story already. So it's like we can never get anywhere, man. They really thought of everything.
They have. It's amazing. And especially, putting it into a private company, and this way we can't get the FOIA requests or any public access. It's amazing. And we're almost done. Yeah. So wow, it really is almost time to go in 2 minutes.
An hour and 45 minutes went by. No way,
That's
dude.
unbelievable to me how
I
fast
can't
that
believe
went.
it.
Yeah.
Wow. 156. This has been a huge success, man, huh? You got a lot of
Yeah,
people
we got
watching
up to
that.
169 tonight. Yeah, it was huge. Thank you for this. I can't believe how fast it went. A lot of information to process. I will listen to this show again, make some notes. You gave a lot of good stuff, a lot of good information. And of course, we'd love to have you back again in the near future. So, where can everybody find you at again, if you don't mind telling everybody?
Yeah, so you can email me directly at thealienscientist@gmail.com. If you want to reach out direct, I do answer my emails. Again, if you have any sightings on a TR3B or a triangle craft, please email me with that as well. We're collecting data on triangular craft sightings and locations and stuff like that. So if you have seen any kind of triangular UFOs, definitely get at me about that. I'm trying to do a data set on that as well for a study, and I know that your channel is specifically interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they can find me on alienscientist.com is my website. I'm still updating and putting a lot of information on there, but you can follow me on Twitter too. I post a lot of cool stuff on Twitter,
I know.
and as well. And if you have any specific interest or want information on certain things, man, just get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to send you stuff or link you up with the people I feel are the
Absolutely.
best experts out there on whatever information you're looking for, man.
Yeah, I'm always looking at your Twitter feed and looking for links and stuff. And man, just really good at what you do. Very bright. And I appreciate this tonight. I owe you one. And so,
No worries,
uh,
Rich, man. You got to come on
yes,
my show now.
absolutely. Of course. Yeah, definitely will. Whenever you want, just let me know. So that's it. Jeremy Riss, right?
Riss, that's it, man.
Is it? I got it right. I
Yeah, you got it
remembered. I'm
right.
bad with names. Thank you so much for hanging out on Goof On. So we're going to say goodbye for now. Goof On, we still got 10 minutes left, but thank you again, Jeremy. It was a pleasure, and we'll have you back on in the future. I'll come on your show next. Thank you.
Awesome. No
Thanks,
worries, man.
man.
Thanks.
Have a
Have a
good
good
one.
night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye bye. That was amazing. Really was a good time. I can't believe how fast that went for me. I cannot remember a time where a show went that fast. It was just ridiculously fast. Because there's so much good information. It's that's why I got to watch the show over. I recommend some of you doing the same if you're interested in hearing what Jeremy went over, and all the links and everything. I'll put them into the description here after the show. We always take about 20 minutes to get that updated. So I really appreciate you guys checking that out. Jeremy would too. So today was a special day. I want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes. Yeah. I know. Yeah, it is what it is. We all get older, no big deal. But thank you for the super chats. And before we get out of here, we are going to celebrate this evening with a tribute to me. No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. I don't have it here. I disconnected it by accident. You guys are great. Everybody in the chat. I'm sorry if there were questions in there, and I tried to, uh, you know, give the information over to Jeremy in form of a question without saying where and where it came from. So I appreciate the help on that, but thank you for that as well. So hope you guys enjoy this little. This is for the requests. I can't believe you guys are requesting this during the interview. I can't play this during the interview. You guys are crazy. A little Greg Brown for you.
What are they? Why are they?
Why are they?
What do they mean? What are they? Why are they? What do they mean?
This is for you guys.
What do they mean?
Come on, everybody.
Are they harbingers of world change? These secrets in the fields. Are they harbingers of world change? These secrets in the fields. Are they harbingers of world change?
I really feel weird playing it after such an intelligent show. I have to stop it there. I just feel bad. But thank you. That's enough. I just have this energy going through me that's a little bit different right now. So it just feels weird playing that. But that was per request, Stu Gerson and a couple other people. Big Stu Gerson, everybody. The biggest man, the largest specimen of a human ever existed. But thank you all very much. So we are going to head out of here. I don't know if Third Phase has something coming up later. I'm sure they do. But I want to thank everybody, the super chatters, the moderators. Thank you all. I appreciate your support and your time. And I appreciate all the newcomers and veterans. Thank you. Even just 1 minute spending here with me tonight on GoofOn makes a difference. Just give the show a chance. And that's all I ask. So, we will be back tomorrow, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. I'll be on Dark Hour Paranormal tomorrow and Big Lou's podcast this Saturday. So a lot of good things coming up for GoofOn. And we're going to head out of here. So if you ain't looking up, you ain't looking out for ufology. Good night, everybody.
Anybody seen Richie? Huh? I'm gonna keep coming back till somebody remembers.